Hello and welcome to another standard gameplay video on the official MTG Arena channel. Today I'm revisiting my Monored oil counter deck that I built a few months ago. I'm no longer running Vindictive Flamestoker and instead made room for 2 copies of Volt Charge and 2 copies of All Will Be One. The 5-mana enchantment says whenever we put 1 or more counters on a permanent or player, it deals that much damage to an opponent, creature an opponent controls, or planeswalker an opponent controls, so it can damage everything except for battles, and it has excellent synergy alongside all these artifacts that can slowly pick up extra oil counters, as we can potentially get immediate value from All Will Be One the turn we play it. Also very nice alongside our Planeswalker, Koth, entering with 4 loyalty counters, and then getting 2 more loyalty counters with the +2, so it can deal 2 more damage with the enchantment on the battlefield, and it can also double its damage output with a Sulfum on the battlefield, so there's a ton of synergy throughout. But first, let's take a look at some of the win conditions in this deck. Besides All Will Be One, we also have 4 copies of Urabrask's Forge, an artifact that every turn picks up an oil counter and then generates an X1 red Phyrexian Horror creature token with Trample and Haste, where X is the number of oil counters on it, and then we have to sacrifice that token at the beginning of the next end step, so it will keep getting bigger and bigger until it can attack past all the opponent's blockers and trample over for the win. We can also speed up the process at which the Horror token grows with cards like Furnace Skullbomb, play it for 1, sack it for 1 and a red, drawing a card, and putting 2 oil counters on an artifact or creature we control. There's the Churning Reservoir, adding 1 counter to any artifact we control every turn. And then the Monumental Facade in our mana base also enters with 2 counters on it, and we can remove a counter to put it elsewhere, like on the Urabrask's Forge, so those also have excellent synergy. Then we have 4 copies of Tablet of Completion, which can tap to put an oil counter on itself, and then if it has 2 or more, we can tap it for colorless mana, so it helps us ramp, and then if we have 5 or more counters, it can pay 1 mana, tap, and draw a card, so it turns into a very nice card draw engine, and once again we can speed up that process with cards like Skullbomb, Reservoir, and Facade. And then we also have 4 copies of the Filigree Silex, which is a pretty unique card in this deck. Can tap it to put an oil counter on itself, and we can tap and sacrifice Silex to destroy each non-land permanent with mana value equal to the number of oil counters on the Silex, so kind of like a Ratchet Bomb, but it also has the added flexibility of potentially tapping, removing 10 oil counters from among permanents we control and sacrificing the Silex to deal 10 damage to any target. So now this can also turn into a win condition, especially when paired with Sulfum, because now with Sulfum on the battlefield, we can sacrifice our Silex by removing 10 counters and then essentially deal 20 damage, which can be enough to end the game on the spot. So this says if a source we control would deal non-combat damage to an opponent or a permanent an opponent controls, it deals double that damage to that player or permanent instead. Can also make Sulfum indestructible if we discard 2 cards and pay a bunch of mana and or life. And Sulfum also works very nicely with some of our burn spells, like Play with Fire can deal 2 damage for 1 mana, now 4 damage with Sulfum in play. There's Brotherhood's End as a sweeper dealing 3 damage to each creature and each planeswalker, so outside of maybe damaging or Koth, it's going to be a one-sided sweeper, and then with Sulfum out it can deal 6 damage. Could also use it to destroy artifacts with mana value 3 or less, but that's unlikely to happen when we have so many artifacts ourselves. And then we also have 2 copies of Volt Charge dealing 3 damage to any target, and we get to proliferate, so we can add oil counters to all our permanents, and can also maybe add more loyalty to our Koth, which is also quite synergistic with Sulfum, doubling the damage from the -3. The +2 simply finds a mountain, so that's why we have so many mountains in the deck, also because the -3 deals damage to an opposing creature equal to the number of mountains we control, so we don't want any channel lands which could mess with the -3 ability. And then the emblem can also be quite achievable if we can protect our Koth, and then whenever a mountain enters the battlefield under our control, it deals 4 damage to any target. And then a Sulfum, as we mentioned, also very good with All Will Be One, doubling its damage output, and there's no lack of synergy with the enchantment. And then our mana base just has 4 copies of the Facade, which can also be very nice alongside cards like Forge, can speed up the tablet so we can draw cards sooner, and can also deal more damage with All Will Be One on the battlefield if we move those counters around. And Facade is also the most reliable way of enabling Reservoir to make a 1/1 token, which can be another mana sink. So our deck is kind of a creatureless control deck for the most part, that's trying to end the game either with Forge or maybe with the surprise finish of Silex alongside Sulfum, or we can kind of play more controlling game and eventually outgrind the opponent with All Will Be One and maybe tablets drawing additional cards. So yeah, that's our deck. Now let's jump into some games and see how the deck does. Okay, we're on the play with a solid hand. Good mix of removal and then threats with the Forge, especially with Skullbomb and Reservoir, adding more counters to it. Silex we can also use as removal. So turn 1 probably Reservoir, so turn 2 Sylex immediately picks up extra counters. So opponent black-green. And a third land is great, so deploy our Forge. Make a 1/1. And then we may only need to deal 10 damage this game, and then we can finish him off with Sylex if we get enough counters going. Junt Colors. What's next? A Scrap Gorger. That's fine. Counter on Forge now. And Facade is nice too. So I can play Skull Bomb, sacrifice putting counters on Forge. And then still use Facade to put an extra counter on Forge as well. I think we can ignore Scrap Gorger. Get in for 6. And yeah, just need to get one more hit in with a token to potentially close out the game next turn. Opponent's got 4 mana at their disposal, and an Archfiend was to be expected. Alright, main is gonna have to chump here if they want to survive. Could also use Sylex to blow up Archfiend, but may as well present lethal instead. Skull Bomb. Counters on Forge. Up to 10 here. So we get an 11/11. So just to play with fire here would be enough. Opponent blocks, still takes a bunch of trample. And then we don't even need play with fire. Can just activate Sylex, removing 10 oil counters. 4 here and 6 more here. There we have it. Nice turn 5 kill. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw with a fine hand. Sylex plus Solfim could represent 20 damage if we build up enough counters. A bit light on the artifacts to make that happen. But we'll see. Opponent's blue-red. And let's get Sylex going. Next turn we can maybe play Skull Bomb, add 2 counters to it. And then by cycling Skull Bomb, we're more likely to hit our land drops for Koth. It's going to be an invasion of Segovia. Okay, I'm intrigued. Opponent gets to make 2 1/1s. Which I could blow up with Sylex if I don't add a counter. I can just take out their creatures right now. Or we can wipe the board with Brotherhood's End. Although for now we can maybe leave these in play. Opponent might have a Convoke Burn spell to transform Invasion. That could be bad. I think I still add a counter here, since we want to get up to 10 for Solfim. Found another Sylex. So it is legendary, so I'm kind of regretting my decision now. Yeah. Stick to the plan, Skull Bomb. And then sacrifice it to get 2 counters. Have to do it now if I choose a second mode. So at the very least, I can sack the Sylex to destroy the battle. So this implies that they have a Lightning Strike to finish it off. Would turn into a 3/3, but the problem is untapping their creatures also represents a bunch more mana with potentially counter spells in hand. So I could just blow with the Sylex now. And then they also don't get the Power Stone token from Explosion. Alright, so how do we want to proceed? Don't have our 4th land, unfortunately. Could Brotherhood's End before playing Koth, so we don't damage our own Planeswalker later. Could Sylex just deal with the 1/1s, but I kind of want to keep it for Solfim. Or we can get the Forge going. And then if I don't draw land next turn, I could still Brotherhood's End. Maybe the opponent deploys more tokens. Another invasion. So now Brotherhood's End is looking a lot better. Alright, let's move to attackers. And hope they don't have a counterspell. Alright. So 4 tokens dealt with. And now even if invasion transforms, it's not that scary. Only having the one Sea Tyrant. Would love to hit a land drop here to deploy Koth. And get a mountain.
The only path to victory is fighting side by side.
Volcanic Spite, maybe times 2.
I'll never forget the home we lost.
Now I'm capable of deploying All Will Be One next turn, which will trigger off Forge as well as Koth. Alright, big score. Discarding Atraxa, that took an unexpected twist. Serpon's trying to reanimate it. Explosion finishes off Karn. And yeah, don't mind getting my enchantment online while the coast is clear. Hit for 4. So now if we get 10 oil counters in play, Silex could be lethal. But playing Koth with All Will Be One in play is also pretty effective. Chaotic Transformation, I see. Finds Portal to Phyrexia. Luckily no creatures to sacrifice, but it will bring back Atraxa next turn. So can we win the game right now? Opponent's at 10. So let's see, if I Volt Charge, that's 3 damage, plus 1 from All Will Be One proliferating onto Forge. So that's 4 damage, they're at 6, and then they should just be dead. So yeah, that'll do it. Also, actually should have considered playing Silex first, adding a counter, and then if we cast Volt Charge and proliferate, we also proliferate onto Silex, so that's a bit more damage with All Will Be One, but it wasn't even necessary. Alright, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the play, and our hand is pretty interesting. Triple Urabrask's Forge. Might be a bit much without any interaction, but let's give it a shot. Maybe we're up against a control strategy that doesn't have artifact removal, and then Triple Forge will be the best draw ever. And green-whites, poison. Well, that's the opposite of a control deck. Can play tablets. If we get to 5 mana for All Will Be One, that could be an effective way of dealing with a bunch of smaller creatures, as we can repeatedly deal 1 damage. Our better draws include our Silex, and potentially Brotherhood's End could be very effective. Alright, Hive we don't mind as much, since it's a slower card. So play Forge. And get in for 1. So next turn Tablet will make an extra mana, so we could already play All Will Be One if we draw land. Rot Priest, okay. At least it doesn't trigger off abilities that target, so the All Will Be One could still get around it, and the Duelist we definitely want to try and take out. So hope for a land. Alright, we found it, perfect. So now I can play All Will Be One, get a counter on Forge, and take out Duelist. And then next turn, between Tablet and Forge, we can mow down more of the opponent's creatures. Sentry, alright, that goes for Forge. At 4 toughness, it's pretty difficult to take out with our enchantments, so that's a setback. Alrighty, so how do we want to sequence? I can activate tablets at any point. I do have to watch out for the Seed Core as well, pumping their creatures. Could just run out Double Forge. That's 2 triggers. Kill 2 of the mites. And then we've got 3 poison coming our way at the very least. Yeah, maybe just setting up with Double Forge is still the way to go. And then next turn we can run out our Skull Bomb. And no point in attacking into the lifelinker. Alright, big turn coming up. So 3 poison, up to 8. And oof, Boseiju to blow up our enchantment, that's the worst case scenario. So now we just need to top deck a Sweeper here to stand a chance. Probably the only answer in their deck, but hello, Brotherhood's End. So, is that actually good enough? It doesn't deal with Annex Sentry, and our opponent still gets a 1/1 from Crawling Chorus. So then we're still taking 2 poison. So this doesn't actually keep us alive. So what does that mean for us? We can play Skull Bomb, cycle it, and then hope to find something afterwards. Can I afford to pay 2 mana here? I guess if I use tablets, I could still cast a Brotherhood's End and maybe a Play with Fire. And then we get a faster clock going with Urabrask's Forge. Yeah, I guess we'll give it a try. Silex. Oh man. So, Silex can deal with tokens, but I'm not gonna have the mana to cast it. So deal 3 to everything. So had we not actually gone for the second mode and left ourselves with an extra mana, then Silex could have cleaned up the token from Chorus and we could have maybe survived for an extra turn. But yeah, now it's over. Get in for 6. Yeah, that's a shame that Boseiju turned the game around, otherwise we probably would have been able to deal with all their creatures. Pass a turn, and their opponent can just turn their team sideways. Close game. GG's, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw, and yeah, our hand seems keepable enough. Now I'll go for turn 1 Reservoir, so we can level up Silex right away. Facing blue-black. And Informant makes his discard. So, Play with Fire may not be at a premium here. Tablet may be even better than Silex now. Since that can turn into extra card advantage. And can also help us ramp out Koth a turn early. Okay, opponent's a ninjutsu deck. So Koth will only be able to deal 2 or 3 damage at most next turn. All will be 1, could be great. So yeah, I guess just play Koth, get a mountain, and then it should be able to stick around for an extra turn. And then all will be 1, could be quite effective alongside our Planeswalker. And then Silex can threaten 10 damage at some point, but we'll see what the ninjas can come up with. Picking up Informant and then replaying it is pretty powerful. And the Moon Sage's Scion is one of the better ones to put in play here, as that can provide more card advantage. So we'll see what they reveal. Skull Bomb and Furmaster. That costs him 2 life, but pumps the team. Would have loved to find a Brotherhood's End, but maybe deploying All Will Be One and plussing Koth is still good here. Is there anything better we can do? These are both 3-drops. So what if I play Silex? Can add a counter with Facade. Play Skull Bomb, but not have the mana to then sacrifice Skull Bomb. So yeah, I think All Will Be One is going to be better for us. Plus, and then 2 damage to the Master. And hope Koth survives another turn. And then we can maybe make the Silex play I described last turn to blow up all 3-drops. Kaito. Alright.
You ready, Pon-Pon-chan? Time to put our skills to the test.
It's gonna draw a card.
I got fresh intel.
And looks like Koth sticks around for another turn, so that's huge. Scion also doesn't trigger if it damages Planeswalkers. So we've got a lot of damage to distribute. Might be able to take out their creatures without firing off Silex. So let's see here. I guess 1 damage to Satoru, since the plus from Koth is enough to deal with Scion. And get a mountain. Can play Urabrask's Forge. Play Silex. And then counter on itself. Yeah, opponent has seen enough. Yeah, if we play Silex, can tap to put a counter on itself. And then move a counter from Facade onto Urabrask's Forge. Which will then trigger All Will Be One again. Forge gets another counter, triggers again, so that's 3 total to finish off Satoru. And we also have a creature large enough to finish off Kaito. And yeah, then we're just taking over from there. Sweet, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the play with what looks like a fine hand. Reservoir into tablets can help us accumulate a lot of oil, which can turn into card draw. And then Volt Charge gives us a bit of removal. Can also proliferate all the oil counters from Facade and Tablet. And the All Will Be One could be pretty exciting. Just activate this now. Opponent on a Bant deck. And a Skrelv, so maybe a Legendary deck. Rot Priest, okay, poison. So, probably want to get a second tablet going before proliferating, even though it means opponent can have shields up with Skrelv. If we can ramp out an All Will Be One with double tablets, then we can mow down Skrelv pretty easily. So, yeah, I guess we'll play tablets, use a counter from Facade to put on tablets. And then we'll keep adding counters to both. But now this will be able to generate mana next turn already, so we're guaranteed to play our enchantment. Ledger Shredder. Okay, so our opponent's got a pretty interesting Bant deck here. Combat Research. So they don't seem to be on the poison plan as much as just using the Rot Priest to discourage removal. So these both get an oil counter. And then I wouldn't mind drawing a land, actually. Alright, so I can now play All Will Be One. Use this for mana. And then tablets getting a counter will take out Skrelv thanks to our enchantment. Do this while they're tapped out. And now tablet can also draw. Stormchaser Drake. It's not too difficult to kill at 1 toughness. Have to imagine the opponent has a few protection spells in place. But we're about to find out, because proliferating with Volt Charge represents a lot of damage. Opponent has the indestructible instant, so I think we respond with Volt Charge. And then I can keep the Facade untapped. Attempt to Volt Charge. Ledger Shredder might be a little greedy if they can cast another spell and connive. So maybe go for Rot Priest. Could also go Phase to make sure it resolves. Because if they have another, let's say, hexproof trick, this would fizzle and then I don't get any proliferate. So let's try this. Alright, that resolved. So we get a bunch more counters, a bunch more triggers. So take out Drake. And then we can attempt to take out Rot Priest. Awesome. Get a bit of poison, that's okay. And draw Play with Fire. So now I can still potentially move a counter from Facade. Don't have the red mana to play Forge, so I can just draw with Tablet instead. And then pass a turn. And yeah, with all will be won on the battlefield, it's going to be very hard for them to establish a board presence, and eventually our Forge can take over. Sweet, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the play, and yeah, our hand's got potential. Double Reservoir with Forge can be a pretty fast clock. And then we've got a bit of removal for opposing creatures. And Facade could also help out. Turn 1 Adaptive. Alright, so we can play another Reservoir and Play with Fire. I'll hang on to Play with Fire in case our opponent presents, let's say, the Beast Caller on 2. It can be a Pack Leader instead. Alright. Then I guess we're taking out Adaptive. Opponent could have a Tyvar stand for 0 to save it. That's the downside of waiting here on Play with Fire. Yep. Alright. I was hoping they'd play a 2-drop. That's a convenient top deck. So we can just wipe the board. Could also wait a turn, since this is likely staying 3/3 or smaller. And then maybe we'll kill another creature in the process. And yeah, Forge, while being a win condition, is not an actual creature that dies to Brotherhood's End. Ooh, Canker Bloom. Yeah, that can destroy our Forge now. That's too bad. Luckily we've got another. But now I probably have to pull the trigger on Brotherhood's End, otherwise Adaptive might get out of range. So, yeah, bit of a setback. Just try again next turn. Oddity, that's a fast clock, but also would have made Adaptive into a 4/4. Yeah, this is not looking great. Play Forge. Maybe if we find Silex with all these extra counters on Reservoir, we can still deal 10 extra damage. But Polukranos can also get in the way and transform next turn. So, not keeping my hopes up. All will be one we're not close to casting. So, yeah, we seem very much dead here. I guess what I can do is make a chum blocker with Reservoir to block Polukranos. So, move counter from Facade onto Forge. We'll make a 5-powered attacker to get past Polukranos. And since I moved the counter from Facade, I'm allowed to make a 1/1 token with Reservoir. So technically that keeps me alive, since we can chump Polukranos, which doesn't trample, and this gets in for 4. Adaptive doesn't change it. Alright, so if we top deck Filigree Silex, I believe we win the game. So that's what we're hoping for. Mountain. That's not Filigree Silex. So what's the best I can do? I can cycle Skull Bomb for 1 mana, hoping to top deck Silex. If I sacrifice it for 2 mana, I won't have the mana to cast Silex if I draw it, but I would get 2 more counters on Forge. Does that matter? I'm not gonna chum block with 1/1s anymore. If I move counter from Facade and 2 more from Skull Bomb, this goes to 10, then 11, still not enough for lethal. So yeah, my only out is cycling Skull Bomb for 1 mana, and then drawing Filigree Silex. Come on, Silex. Brother's End, not quite. Alright, so get in for 8. But that's all she wrote. GG's. We had more than enough counters left to activate a Silex. But yeah, that early Canker Bloom made a pretty big difference. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play. Our hand's got potential. Skull Bomb into Tablet. We've got Silex and Brotherhood's End as sweepers. But then Tablet can draw us extra cards, especially if it's turbocharged by the Skull Bomb. We'll get there sooner. So yeah, play Tablets and pass. Facade can also help. Opponent on potentially blue-white soldiers, but no place so far. So yeah, play Facade. And then I think the plan is sacrifice Skull Bomb, put 2 counters on Tablets. And then Facade can put another one there. And then we'll wait on Silex. Some of these I have to do at sorcery speed. So next turn Tablet can draw. Overseer, so maybe an Angels deck. So we can hang on to Brotherhood's End, just draw with Tablets, and play Silex most likely. Full charge. So that's definitely a reason to hang on to 1 counter on Facade, so we can proliferate and then we can remove more of them. I'll just take 2 from Overseer, no need to play with fire. Invasion of Dominaria, gain 4, draw card. And if they transform it, they can get a 4/4 Flying Vigilance, so kind of a Sarah Angel. Okay, the life gains maybe gonna make it more difficult to burn them out. So now do we kill Overseer? Sure. Still have 2 burn spells in hand. Opponent has a response. Slip out the back. Well, at least no damage to the battle. And now probably interested in drawing with Tablets and then casting a Volt Charge on Overseer, perhaps. I can do this all at instant speed. So we'll pass a turn. And then I guess we'll pull the trigger now. Can be another slip out the back. Alright, so we don't get to proliferate now, unfortunately. But once again, no attack on the battle. Can still draw with Tablets. And a Reservoir will come in handy. So I can move counter to Silex, so I can potentially sacrifice it to blow up Overseer. Could also just draw now with Tablets, and then still make a 1/1 with Reservoir. find another tablet, so we'll get that going instead of making a 1/1, since we'll likely Brotherhood's End soon anyway. And get this one started. Okay, pass a turn. Can blow up Silex if needed, but probably okay to let this take 4 damage. Errant and Jada, so now they've got another 3-drop in play. Definitely more interested in sacrificing the Silex. Can wait for them to move to attackers, I suppose. And then, yeah, blow up Silex, which will also take care of the invasion. Fading Hope this time instead of Slip Out the Back. Keeps a card on top. And the Battle and Jada are gone. Okay. Counter on tablets. Reservoir's good. So let's start by drawing here. And then can play another Silex. Play Reservoir. Move one last counter over here. And then I have enabled Reservoir to make a 1/1. And pass a turn. So 5th counter on tablet, Silex sticks up. So that can potentially deal 10 damage. If we draw Solfim, that's 20 damage. And we're drawing 3 cards per turn soon. Let's draw. Brotherhood's End. Draw again. And a land. So not the most exciting set of draws. Get in for 1. And yeah, probably just pass a turn. Don't feel the need to Brotherhood's End. Haven't enabled Reservoir, so can't make any 1/1s. Might see another Errant and Jada. Yep. So I have the option of sacking Silex, but this time I'll deploy Brotherhood's End. And then keep this as a win condition. Another invasion, so they can deal 4 damage to it now. That 4 life gain also potentially relevant. So very similar board state to before, now they decide to just go face. We'll allow it. And with double Brotherhood's End, I feel okay adding more counters to this. All will be one is a great draw. Well, let's make sure this happens first. Or do we? I guess if they have a Make disappear with casualty, I can pay for it. So sure. Does all will be one resolve? It does, and our opponent concedes. Fair enough. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play with a decent hand. Tablet into Forge. Facade can speed up the tablet or the Forge. Opponent taking some aggressive mulligans, so I'm putting them on a Rot Priest poison deck. In which case our hand's not very good. No cheap removal, no Brotherhood's End. Do have a Koth at 4. That doesn't trigger poison. Alright, the Play with Fire is a nice draw. So next turn I can play Urabrask's Forge. And there's a Rot Priest. And I'm sure opponent's got a protection spell in hand. So don't think I should bother casting Play with Fire right now. Although it does keep them honest if we keep up Play with Fire. Yeah, I don't think this game's necessarily about Urabrask's Forge, although it is a way to enable All Will Be One next turn. And we could already run it out thanks to Tablet making mana. So sure, let's just run with the Forge. And then next turn I could also try double spelling Koth and Play with Fire. Brother's End, alright. So now we've got a lot of options. Don't mind Brotherhood's End. And then I can keep taking up my tablets and I can use Facade on Urabrask's Forge. I guess maybe that's a little greedy, because then I won't be able to Play with Fire also. So we'll try this instead. Deal 3 to creatures. Opponent's good to slip out the back. We'll Play with Fire. See if they have another protection spell. Looks like it. Alright. So that's a lot of poison, and Rot Priest is still alive. But next turn we can try again with Koth. And at least Koth won't take damage from Brotherhood's End now. Okay, run out Koth. Does this work?
Mercy is earned, and Phyrexia deserves none.
It does not. March. Yeah, this Rot Priest is not going anywhere. At least if they attack Koth, they're not poisoning me. And if they ignore Koth, then All Will Be One could be pretty effective with our Planeswalker. So we're still at 6 poison. 2 cards in hand for the opponents. Counters on Forge probably makes more sense. And another tablet to draw. So playing All Will Be One does not really have an immediate impact. I would only get 1 damage from Forge. So I think playing another tablet makes more sense. And then I can move a counter from Facade onto Forge to present a faster clock. And then I can use Reservoir to make a 1/1 token, since we removed a counter from Facade. That way we can chump the Rot Priest. So hopefully we can block the incoming attack. And then next turn with Forge we could cross the finish line. Invasion, okay. Opponent's digging for maybe another Rot Priest. And they did keep on top. So what's it gonna be? Rot Priest attacks, I'll jump. And it's time to deploy our enchantment here, even drew another one. So play it. Go to attackers. Forge triggers, All Will Be One, deals 1 damage. Wouldn't be able to finish off Rot Priest here. But it looks like another March, so yeah, that's more poison. I'm going to go up to 7 if they attack 8. And then, yeah, hopefully a pump spell is only 9 poison total. We also get to keep our Phyrexian Horror for an extra turn, which is kind of interesting. So tap this for 1 damage. And now I could deal damage to the Rot Priest if I'd like. And we found a Sylex, so that's also just 10 damage now. Alright, so ended up being pretty close. Opponent mulliganed a bunch. but this is more than enough. 18 damage, plus 10 from Silex, plus we can activate some of our artifacts. Alright, bonus got to March. So they actually could have survived if it weren't for Silex, but yeah, put an oil counter, take out Rock Priests, and then Silex can do the honors. There we have it. Alright, so we got to see our Monored oil counter deck in action, and the deck is a ton of fun to play. I'm also very happy with all the changes I've made to it compared to the original build that I made a few months ago, and this is a great home for the 5 mana All Will Be One enchantment, as we get to enable it the same turn we play it. So yeah, all in all, a pretty fun deck. If you've drafted a lot of Phyrexia All Will Be One, you probably have a lot of these cards already, so then it's not too difficult to put together. So that's going to do it for today's gameplay. Want to thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a nice day.